seat. I want to.
Yeah, stand in a little table. We'll find you a little table.
All right, if you will, I appreciate it, because I'm going to set these up. What? Yeah, I got them all ready.
Oh, have you got it?
All of them already registered, I've got it ready.
Now, if there's any additional ones. That's too bad, isn't it? No,
Oh, no.
is it big? Yeah. Wait,
Somewhere back over here. Is it your maiden name?
Yeah. That's what we said last time. It has to be big.
Hey,
How you doing?
This is good. This is the one I get the nice letters. One for her with no nothing.
And John walked away from us. There he is. John, come in and speak to these two.
I've already spoken to him. I don't know if he did or not.
Yeah, I spoke to him, but I didn't shake hands.
You just said hello.
Pete Garner.
John Nicholas. And Dorothy.
Yeah, I recognize him. Yeah, I recognize him.
Little things like that. That one day she come in, but she told me,
Oh, really? Sister, she didn't tell us.
glad you can bend down these and
I don't know. Because I saw Sue March the 30th. She was in Osborne, not the 91st. First birthday. Oh, and some of the rest of us there too. She told me about it.
oh, you gonna get on the movies, Bob?
They got it.
Rick, y'all been hard at it?
Yeah, yeah.
But Stan, you're supposed to get a table.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Who was that? Oh, well, good. Yeah. Cheryl Hobbs.
Hello.
Did you see John? Yeah, so Francis Bailey, Berkeley, and here's her husband, Reed.
How you doing?
Berkeley. And this is Pauline McCabe. You know, you said that one of the McCabe girls would be here. Hello there. Oh, Rudy Atkinson, yeah.
He married
What did you just do? have breakfast together. I'm not going to meet all the reasons. I'm staying with my
You're sitting somewhere in the middle, like right here, and you can see everybody. All right, let me get some things. Should we put
Oh, yeah. This man who runs this place, John.
I'm checking and double checking. I'm checking
We're going to get a class picture, and the photographer wants all of us lined up so he can arrange us up in front of the Randolph-Henry sign there, so we'll do that now.
The ladies in front.
Well, you sure fine. Have you been back from I'm looking now, baby. And I know I'm going to.
I'm kind of tall.
Oh, yeah, yeah, there's somebody in front, everybody got quiet.
James hiding behind Dave's head right there.
I think you want to do
Oh, we're gonna get them.
Somebody's got to put them on somewhere. I think them got a minute.
No, same company, but not the same man.
You'll pick a minute one
Oh, yours, that's nice.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Later.
I'm already ready. Oh, you got me. Yeah, you got me somewhere. Okay, let's get this
So one lady got real upset with me. She said, "Don't you have a more up-to-date driver's license than this?" I said, "But this was the best picture." She said, "I've heard it all."
John, making us laugh.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, no, she's not. She's
The senior class. And I put it on date.
Okay, let me tell the girl.
Thank you.
Sixth class reunion. You know, 6 years ago when we got together, we envisioned through a suggestion that, as a matter of fact, the stand made us get together in 5 years. Well, you know, we are a class that's pretty persistent. We didn't make it in the 55th year, but we certainly made it this year. We really appreciate all of you who have come. It just seems such like it's such a short period of time, and I guess it only goes to mark how fast time really passes anymore. It just seems like it was just a few weeks ago that we got together, and so it's so nice that we can have this many in our class together. Certainly my pleasure to welcome you. Also, I do, you know, very little in putting this together, and it's kind of embarrassing. But there are some ladies who work very, very hard, and I stay mostly in contact with Ruby, and certainly Ruby and Mamie, Madeline, and Dorothy all have put a lot of time and effort into making this a wonderful event that it obviously is going to be. And so we want to thank them for their time and effort, always bailing me out. And there are some of our class members who we want to remember tonight in a memorial type of way. I will read their names and kind of remind us of all that the many pleasures and the wonderful times that they brought to us during our class years, as well as those of you who have had an opportunity to stay in contact. The unfortunate thing with being so far away, not only that you think of frequently. And I most certainly do, as well as Clara, who is a graduate of Randolph-Henry. She thinks of her class often, and many people who we reflect on later in life who contributed so much, and at the time we didn't really have the appreciation for all of the nice friendships and the nice boosts that we had in school, not only in class but in sports and that type of thing. And so all these things kind of come back as we get a little bit more mature. And so we certainly want to remember Catherine Adams and Sterling Beaver, Ayla Berkeley, June Berkeley, Shirley Carter, Helen Fruit, June Dixon, Cecil Elliott, Mary Elizabeth Garber, James Graves, Carolyn Harris, Reed Hawkins, Rebecca Hudson, Anne Elizabeth Jackson, and Gracie Gertrude Jones, Owen Marshall, Ruth Nelson, Beryl Newcomb, Henry Nichols. And Henry and I had some great times on the school bus. So I have some real fond memories of all of them, but certainly I remember that school bus ride. And Mary Lee Pearson, Virginia Pugh, Susan Francis Roach, Mabel Rebecca St. John, Howard Stimmeridge, and Ernest Hillard. And so we all remember them with a lot of fondness. At this time, we'll have our dinner, and then I'll have the opportunity to introduce a cousin of mine's son. And it was kind of interesting when I spoke to Ruby about the speaker tonight, and I said, and I called her back, and I said, look, I said, you know, his father's a first cousin of mine. And so he was just a babe at the time that we left this part of the country, and so it would be real nice tonight to have a chance to introduce him. So enjoy your meal.
It's always a pleasure to be asked back, even though it's 5, 6 years later. I remember some of your faces. I would not have remembered your names at all. And now I have forgotten those who reintroduced themselves to me. Please do not worry. I will remember your face. Please bow your heads with me, will you please? Our Father, it is wonderful to realize that you give life and that you give it abundantly. And you give us the pleasures of life abundantly. And you ask from us the sincerity of being a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so, Father, we do want to imitate him and with our lives. We're grateful and thankful for all the blessings. We thank you for this food tonight, and help our wonderful, wonderful group to come to a realization that life is long, not only on earth, but it can also be long in the kingdom. Help us to live for you, we ask, in all that we do. In Jesus' precious name and for his sake. Amen.
That's a good idea. They have They need some service over there if you're gonna do it. They don't have, well,
Don't have one.
they don't have the utensils.
We'll go this way.
I'm gonna put it out. She's got lots of space.
On this side.
We'll back it.
You eat that.
Big county too.
What is that stuff?
Her family take care of it, he does. Okay.
She said I had time to have another one, Mom. I said, but you would die.
We wait right here. Well, yes, okay, we have to get it right now.
She's got utensils now.
Are you gonna do half two lines?
I was getting too much.
That's a good idea.
You're doing a mighty good job.
She's a born leader.
I'm gonna be reading
You're always come back.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Right out.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see it? Is that a clip?
I saw me.
You found yourself? Where are you?
Right here.
Oh, you've got
Did you deal with it?
You got this already. I was just getting ready to carry this somewhere. Here we go. Now let's carry
As I mentioned earlier, this evening has a special plus certainly for me and Clara, I imagine. I guess Mika's father, who is the first cousin, is here tonight, and the thing, you know, that Clara and I talk about a lot is, you know, we say to each other, you know, I can't remember things like I used to. And so I asked Reuben, I said, Reuben, how long has it been since you and I last saw each other? He looks at me and he said, you know, I don't really know. But it's been a long time. It's kind of nice to get to see Reuben and of course Ray and Stan. They used to be a joker in the school there. And the first team on the basketball team, as you substituted in and out, they were all first cousins. And so that is something that comes back as a memory. We're real pleased that we can have Reuben's son, who is Reuben Larry, tonight to give us an update on many of the things that are going on, not only at Randolph-Henry, but in the high school. And I know that each of you, just as Claire and myself, who are graduates there, we think many, many times as we saw, our youngsters go through school, high school, and also college and have the grandchildren. We think back, you know, of Randolph-Henry and our days there. And as I mentioned to you the last time, we gained a greater appreciation for the background, experience in education that we got at Randolph-Henry. I can tell you, when we look at some of the school systems that we have experienced with our youngsters, and we always reflect back that, boy, Randolph-Henry had a lot on the stick that we didn't appreciate in those days, and certainly the teachers that we had, we think of often, were just outstanding. And it's just too bad that a few years have to pass before you can reflect back and have a full appreciation for all that our teachers gave us, and that we can have them personally to thank them. And but anyway, it's something that I'm sure that all of you reflect on, and certainly tonight having Reuben Larry here to bring us up to date is a real treat. He is a product of Charlotte County, and as I mentioned, he's Reuben's son. Is it your eldest son, Reuben? Eldest. And also, Reuben Larry is a product of Randolph-Henry. And that's kind of nice. And he got his PhD degree from Vicksburg College. He got his master's degree from Longwood. And then he entered the teaching profession in the county. And then after a period of time, he has had his own business. And then he came to Randolph-Henry as principal, and I think there that was 10 years as principal there. And now he's assistant superintendent of schools. He's married. He has a son and daughter, both of whom are out of college. And he tells me he doesn't live too far from here. So Larry, I can't tell you how nice it is to have you and to also meet you. and have an opportunity to visit with you. After Larry finishes his presentation here to us, there's a high school prom that he needs to get to, so we won't delay you, Larry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and it's nice seeing you and your wife too. When Ruby called me, she asked me to put together a little history of Randolph-Henry High School for you. I'm very happy to do that because I spent most of my life working in or around Randolph-Henry High School. I thought it would also be interesting to you if I put together some of the things that we found in the last week when I was looking back through the archives there at Randolph-Henry. I put together for you a couple of little handouts. So let me, I'm going to do this in reverse order. What I'd planned to do was give you a little history of the high school and then give you this to take home and read. But an old friend of mine once told me something that I found very true. The mind can only absorb what the behind can endure. So with that, I'm going to hand you this and let you be looking through that while I talk a little bit about the history. This handout with Mr. Bobbitt and Mr. Williams on the front. I went back to our library sources and I found some pictures, and you notice you've got 2 bus pictures in there. You know, a lot of our history around the county happens on those school buses. So that wasn't a mistake, but I thought it was pretty appropriate. A lot of mistakes happen on that school bus. And then I found some articles about some of you. The time of what I've got at the school are some just excerpts from papers from the school. But I thought if they weren't in this class, you probably recognized a lot of these names in these articles. And then if you thumb on through, it tells you a little bit about beauty pageants and baseball and basketball teams. Y'all must have one heck of a basketball team back then. And then, right at the back, I went back, and what I did have at the central office was a teacher's term report. So I pulled that for 1941, and what you have there in each teacher's handwriting from her report is a list of the students in her homeroom, I guess, his or her. Back then, by the way, you had 26 teachers up there. You had 20 females and 6 males. But as I was counting through here, there were only 22, so I assumed 4 must not have had the homeroom. So I assume that they did this like we do now. They have a homeroom for absentee attendance purposes. But I thought that might be interesting reading. The next little handout you've got, just some pictures of our new middle school that was built in 1992-93 that I'll talk a little bit about here shortly. With that, let me mention one other thing about the handouts. The second page on that first handout, I did find the class of 1941 on there. I have some more of those pictures if anybody needs one right there, so feel free to, I'm going to leave them here tonight. Y'all can pick them up and dispense them or whatever you want to do with them. With that, let me, while you're perusing those, let me get on with a little bit of history of Randolph-Henry High School and then update you on where we are now. Let me preempt all this by saying that you folks were mighty fortunate. Back in a time when it was hard to come by a dollar, you attended a school that was the Cadillac of the industry, whether you know that or not. That's what I found out. And again, I appreciate being here tonight. I have a lot of ties because I was born right here in the county, and my brothers and sisters attended Randolph-Henry, as did I. I married a girl in my class at Randolph-Henry. Most of my uncles and aunts and nieces and everybody attended Randolph-Henry. And I was principal at the school for 10 years. That's the real history I can tell you about. Some of it's right interesting too. But what I'd like to do is go back and tell you how we started Randolph-Henry and a little bit about what we're doing today. So then I'll entertain questions. And as Brendan said, I have a prom to attend tonight, and we have an all-night after prom party. So I would welcome any of you who'd like to go with me. We'll just stay together. With that, let me tell you just a little bit about how Randolph-Henry got started and where we are today. The idea of a consolidated high school actually started back in 1927 in the county from the records I could find. Apparently back then we had some real progressive people in this county that thought hadn't really taken on. At one time, Charlotte County had 52 schools in the county. Now, I'm talking about black schools and white schools, but more whites than blacks back then. 52 schools. Well, it was on up late 30s, 40s before people ever started figuring out, hey, we can save a lot of money if we combine forces here and only operate one school plant, bus kids one way and drop them off at one site. That notion sort of caught on in Charlotte County faster than it did all around the state. Randolph-Henry was one of the first consolidated high schools in the state of Virginia. And let me tell you how that came to be. In 1927, our school board started talking about it. For 10 years, nothing happened. And then, like most things happen, the school at Phoenix burned down. That caused them to take some action. They needed to do something. So what they did was decided then they were going to get some people involved, and they convinced the Board of Supervisors. And we also had a very prominent representative at that time, Mr. David Bruce, representing us. That didn't hurt a thing. In 1938, the construction on the home ec building began. The building, as it was designed, had three parts: the main building, the home ec cottage, which is on the eastern end of the building, and the ag building. The main building is 300 feet long, just a magnificent building back in its day. And I hope for those of you who haven't been through the building or by it, I hope you will at least do that. We've done a pretty good job over the years. We've not spent the money. Charlotte County is still one of the poorest counties in the state of Virginia, the 12th poorest, as a matter of fact, in the state of Virginia, so we have very little money to do what we would like to do. The wings of the building extend out 70 feet from the main section and back 100 feet. On either end of the main building, of course, you had the auditorium, one of the nicest auditoriums that you will find. And I was talking to a guy about redoing the seats and restructuring just refurbishing the auditorium. Just the way that thing is laid out, it's unbelievable, because every seat in the place can see the center of that stage. You can't find that in any buildings nowadays. Somebody's always blocking. But back in the 38 design, that's actually right in that building. The other end of the building is the gymnasium. And that gymnasium was by far the Cadillac back then when y'all were going to school. There weren't any gymnasiums that size in this area. And that's served its purpose on up until about the early 70s and 80s. Other schools began to build more elaborate gymnasiums and all of that. And that's, now we've sort of outgrown that. The new school, as it was designed, was projected to cost $236,000. The bid came in at $175,000, and Fowler Jones Construction Company out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, got the low bid and was granted the award. The monies came from these sources, and I've heard all types of tales, so I'm glad I was forced to do a little research on this. I'm sure you have too. The federal government put up $105,000, and that was a Public Works Administration. The old Public Works Administration trying to put people back to work because the Depression was still there. I mean, we were still having effects from that. Plus, we're about to go into another war and all that. So that was one way that the government felt that they could put people to work. The state government put up $106,000, and the supervisors and an anonymous donor, David Bruce, put up the remaining $25,000. And I heard for years that David Bruce put up half for the county and the county matched it. Well, according to my records, that's not so. But anyway, I suspect David Bruce had a lot to do with us getting that $106,000 from the state. I really do. All right, as we went along there, the school was constructed in 1 year and 2 months. In January, on January the 5th, 1940, the place was open. Dad and Mom were in that first class. I know what it's like to build a building and move children in when everything is on schedule and you have the summer months before you move in. I don't know that I'd like to attempt that, which y'all did that first year. I can't imagine exactly how you did that. There's a lot of chaos and movement in a high school anyway, so I can't figure out how you found out where all the kids were all the time. But anyhow, I think it's miraculous that it happened. Just a footnote about 1940. I'm told, now I didn't find this into the school records, that there was tremendous flood in the spring of 1940. But I did find in my records that January the 23rd, y'all had a snowstorm that closed school for 2 weeks. So right after you'd moved into the school, it was closed for 2 weeks. So I'm sure y'all had an interesting year that first year. Be that as it may, Randolph-Henry was built. It was the prettiest of its time. It still is the prettiest of its time. I brought a comforter there that has Randolph-Henry on it, the one that you see in the back. I didn't know Madeline and Bill were going to bring it tonight. That building is magnificent. Those of you who haven't seen that, you can step back after my talk. Like I said, I know you're getting tired. But the building has always been magnificent. It's just a great building. A footnote here again. In 1992, when we were building the middle school to consolidate again and save some cost and get that building closer to Randolph-Henry, I just had the architects working on that building, so I just said, take a look at Randolph-Henry, figure the square footage and what is it going to cost me to build that building today. Number one, you can't build a building like that today. It has too much steel and cement. Number two, Charlotte County can't afford it. It would cost probably $12 to $15 million to build that building today. We were talking about $236,000 back then. A couple other things that I found interesting as I was reading through some of the newspaper clippings and about you all. You all chose the first ring. That's a ring that the kids are still wearing today. It has the bust of Queen Charlotte on the shank of the ring. And it's a college-type design.
And a little picture of the school.
And a picture of the school on the other side. That's the same ring that they're using today. You folks are first to everything. Also, an interesting note, on the comforter that you see, Patrick Henry and John Randolph, I understand that the first classes there had some input into naming the schools. Now, whether that, I cannot find that in anything written that but I was told that a few years ago.
Right.
And a survey was done, and that's how you came up with the name. Patrick Henry, John Randolph, both resided here in Charlotte County. Patrick Henry, probably the greatest statesman of his, I know of his day, probably of all time. Certainly the greatest speaker of all time. Could convince anybody to do anything. Good thing you didn't have pharmaceuticals in, bro. But anyway, he was the first elected governor of the state of Virginia. He never served because he died prior to taking office. But anyway, he and Randolph had the great debate, 1799, and of course, again, both of them from Charlotte County, so y'all had some input in naming the school, so I think that's very appropriate. A couple of other interesting footnotes that I found about Randolph-Henry then. The baseball team that you had some trouble getting some finances scraped together to buy equipment and everything, so they put season tickets on sale. Season tickets for students for all of the games. What do you think they sold for? 50 cents. Exactly right. For adults, it was $1. But for students, to all the games, 50 cents. You actually had the first basketball game played at Randolph-Henry on January the 4th, prior to you going on January the 5th, I found out. And that was against a team over here in Prince Edward. 1940, the school was constructed, students moved in, things were rolling, and not much changed until 1968. In 1968, a couple of things happened. Number one, Congress in 1972 said that all secondary education will have a comprehensive vocational program, which means you've got to offer more offerings than we were currently offering. That had some meaning to it, but it didn't mean much because there was no money to do all of that until 1976. Congress passed the Public Works Employment Act, which said that if your unemployment rate is high enough in your counties, then you can get some funds to do some things and add on to your vocational areas. Our unemployment rate at that time was 10.5%. So we were one of the highest around the state, so we were eligible for some funding. What happened was we got funding in the amount of $2 million. We built a vocational building south of Randolph-Henry High School, right adjacent to it, just right behind the ag shop. We built the vocational building. We also built a new library on the eastern end of the main building. The library seats 110 students, and it's pretty. For those of you who haven't been, I encourage you to go by the school or call me sometimes, and I'll take you on a little tour. It's still a beautiful library. It has a mezzanine area. It's actually 3 levels. You walk into the main library on the main floor, and there's a mezzanine sitting up here. In the mezzanine now, we are having classes for interactive television, where the kids can actually communicate right to their professor, who's at Virginia State or Virginia Tech, and he can communicate with them. All of them have cameras where they can interact. Anyway, the project, that renovation project, and we also renovated the cafeteria at that same time. That project again cost $2 million, and we got a lot of help on that because of the congressional acts that were passed then. Also, horticulture was added to the vocational offerings, and a greenhouse was built right beside the vocational building. And in the vocational building, we had several new offerings. Drafting. We had 3 types of business. We had ag production, ag machinery service, masonry, carpentry, and several others, industrial arts type classes. So that was in '68. Excuse me, that was in 1980 when it was done. Let me back up here. In '68, let me back up to '68 because I got in the cart before the horse. We built a vocational building before I added on one addition there. In 1968, we added on to the east wing of Randolph-Henry a music room, 3 business rooms, a clinic, and a general purpose room. That was the 1968 edition there. That project went for about $68,000. The vocational project didn't happen until 1980, so I got my cart before my horse. I should have referred to my name. 68, 28 years after it opened, we put that wing on there, and we renovated a little bit and added some additional classes. 1980, we put the vocational building and the library on. Since that time, we really haven't done much in the way of additions except for just keeping up the building and painting it and doing whatever's necessary. Again, we're real strapped for money. We don't have much industry in the county, and most of the time, our school budget is a minimal funded budget. Our supervisors have, over the last 2 or 3 years, though, given us some money, and this year, I'm proud to say that we will complete the air conditioning of Randolph-Henry High School. And if you read back in your newspaper prints, back in 1940, you had air conditioning. But the air conditioning you had was a louver that opened to the outside, forced fan air inside. That was called air conditioning back then. It still says so on those units that we took out back when we renovated. Thought that was right funny. But that was the air conditioning you had. This summer, hopefully, the full school will be air conditioned, cafeteria, and all the classrooms will be air conditioned there. All right, that brings us 68 editions, and then 1980 editions. We're going to come on up now to 1992, 93, and really no new additions on Randolph-Henry, but a shared facility that I'm going to tell you about. And that's in that second handout that I gave you, so if you will refer to that in just a moment. Everybody give them these. 1992, we went about constructing a middle school. We put the middle school right on the site there. And if you would look at the middle school there, the far right-hand corner, the last building that you see up there, that's the back of Randolph-Henry, the bus loading area. So that'll give you some idea of the location of this building. This building was built, again, it's been in use now for 3 years. We bid it out to C.L. Lewis, and he got, well, we bid it out, and C.L. Lewis got the low bid on it. Approximately $6 million, 65,000 square feet. It houses grades 6, 7, and 8. Helped us out with the busing situation. All the kids are right there on one site. We drop them off to the high school, the middle school, and just switch out. That's my itinerant teachers to just walk back and forth between the buildings. So there's been some cost-saving measures and some things that are good for children by this happening. If you'll turn over there, I wanted to show you the area, this shared use gymnasium. The gymnasium that was built at Randolph-Henry had seating for, I saw on there one time where it said seating for like 600. There's no way. I mean, you get 600 in, but you like sardines went in there. Probably more like 400. This new gymnasium that we built there at the middle school is a shared facility that our high school varsity sports go down and play their basketball games and girls volleyball games down there. And the JV team uses a smaller gym there at the high school, so the high school gym is still in use. But this is an 1,100 seat capacity gymnasium. Also, there's a cafeteria in the middle school. That's where they're having the prom tonight, fully air conditioned, 500 people for feeding. And that's where our juniors and seniors are having their prom tonight. So there are a lot of, and a lot of times our community uses our cafeteria area there at the middle school. So that sort of brings you up to date. The 68 addition on the east wing, the vocational building behind the school in 1980, and in now 1993 when this middle school went into use, it sort of brings you to where we are in construction. Let me just say a few things, and I know I've kept you longer than I intended to. Let me just say a couple of other things, and I'll get out of your way here. You folks sort of set a tradition there, and your parents did, apparently. I don't know what happened to the progressive thinking in Charlotte County after these folks built Randolph-Henry, but nothing of its magnitude has been undertaken since Randolph-Henry, I can tell you that. So I know that was a big step for anybody that had to make the decision, yes, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it now. So my hat's off to those people, you know. But Randolph-Henry has stood as sort of a tradition. When you think about Charlotte County, you think about Randolph-Henry. Susan Bolick, Madeline and Billy's daughter, made this comforter back here, and you'll see a picture of Randolph-Henry on it. So we're real proud of her for displaying that. And we sold those up at Earth Day last week when we had the county festivities and sort of showed off the county and the courthouse and all that. But Susan did a wonderful job on that. But you folks were fortunate in that you could go to a facility as nice as Randolph-Henry. You sort of started a tradition, and Randolph-Henry has carried on pretty well. Even though we are the 12th poorest county in the state of Virginia, you know, we do whatever needs to be done. It's sort of like the veterinarian who had this sign that said taxidermist/taxidermist on this thing. Somebody said, how in the world is a veterinarian, what's the relationship here? Why are you a taxidermist? He said, well, you know, as people were coming to me with the dogs, you know, whatever the problem, you get your dog back. You know, whatever the problem, we go on with school business. But anyhow, 1940, y'all sort of started a tradition that sort of followed, and I think it has been very important. That sort of carried over. In 1993, Randolph-Henry got the Red Book Award for being one of the 50 best schools in the United States. Our students do very well coming out of Randolph-Henry. We have a student who was valedictorian 5 years ago now. When he finished at William & Mary in chemistry, he was valedictorian there, and he's teaching at Harvard now. And you know, our kids, we provide them a good program, and that's sort of been a tradition and something that just didn't happen this year. It's been going on. We have been real innovative, and I guess one thing with being poor and operating on sort of a minimal budget, you have to be innovative. You have to do whatever it takes, you know. We started a program 7 years ago called the Dual Enrollment Program. I thought both the superintendent and I were going to lose the jobs over this one. I said, well, this is it. We'll end education right there. We started a dual enrollment program. Of course, sometimes your colleagues are your worst enemies when there's change. What we did with the community college here in Keysville, we set up a situation where our better kids could take a class that would give them both high school credit and college credit at the same time, if they could handle it. We went on and set it up so that the college classes in what they call the University Parallel Program coordinated with all the other state schools, state colleges, that if the students made at least a C in those classes, they would transfer and become part of their freshman and sophomore classes that were required. We allow all of our juniors and seniors, be they in the college-bound program or some vocational program, to take 2 dual enrollment programs each semester of that junior and senior year, and we pay for it. That gives the students, number one, a chance to make a little adjustment going to college. It gives the parents one heck of a break on tuition because this is at our expense. And a lot of our students go ahead and follow through. Then they'll take summer courses and they'll follow this up. For the last 2 years, we've had a student to get the Associate Arts degree, the 2-year degree, in May, and come back in June the next month to get their high school diploma. So we're giving them a little shove out there. One of the real problems that we were having was when a student leaves Charlotte County, some of them for the first time, other than going to South Boston or Farmville, when they step into UVA or Virginia Tech, it's such a cultural shock for them. It's not that they can't do it academically, but they've never seen anything like this before. This sort of gives them a little adjustment period, and it really has worked out well for both parents and students. Our students who go through that program, and they've done about 6 or 7 years of research on that now, show that their grade point average, once they reach the college and university level, do much better than the students who don't do that. So that program is working very well. We started that several years ago, and like I said, we survived it and it's worked, so thank God. And it's still working. We started a technology program in our high school where our juniors and seniors actually build computers and run a business right out of our high school. Again, thought we were going to get fired. We still might get fired on this one. But we tried. What we're doing with that program is, you know, there's a lot of talk about technology. Right now in our schools, we have about a ratio of 3 students to 1 computer. Computers are what students are going to have to know how to use when they get out in this workforce, believe me, folks. If you don't have some training on them now and don't need it, you're just blessed, because the rest of us do. I'm struggling with it right now myself, but my wife is a computer teacher, so I might be able to get some free lessons. But kids do have to know how to use those computers, and what we're doing right now, and we have a 4-year-old program in our county, when the 4-year-old kids come to us, I think it's the third day that they're in class, they have a lab experience on that computer every day. And that goes right on through until they become 8th graders. Then when they go to the high school, it's not an everyday scheduled process. Every class then, like your English class or your math class or your physics class, they work individually in this lab. But K through 8, every day our students get a minimum of 30 minutes on those computers. And it's amazing. Those 4-year-olds, this time of the year, they can take that little mouse and do anything they want to. They can type a letter to their parents. It's amazing what a 4-year-old can do on that computer. We took our, Madeline, did you go with us on that little trip to when we showed the technology that?
I didn't this year, I did last year. But I
Did you see those 4-year-olds using
Yes,
the
I
computer?
did.
Anyway, it's amazing to people our age. If I didn't know what was happening, it would shock me a little bit too, what they can do on those computers. But anyway, we have our juniors and our seniors in the high school actually coming down, and they learn how to build those computers, and we actually sell them. We've sold oodles of computers to other counties. We sell to Lunenburg County, Halifax County. Anybody that needs a computer, we'll sell it to them. We'll sell y'all one. And we'll beat the price, and we'll have a good product. And our kids learn how to build a computer. They learn how to load the software. They learn how to network that computer with other computers. They learn all the technical parts. In addition, they learn how to run a business, because we actually run that just like a business and run it right through the books at Randolph-Henry High School. The profit margin on the hardware is not much, but we also sell some software. We turn those profits around, and that's how we get our technology money for our schools. We could not, two things. Number one, we didn't have the money to invest in all these computers unless we had some source of revenue. You know, again, getting back to the veterinarian taxidermist, you got to do whatever you need to do. That's how we've sort of done that. Number two, getting service out here in these rural counties is a real bad. And we're training our service people. We're training these kids to actually come in and service those computers. And I can't say it's been smooth sailing. It has not, because computers will break down and software will break down and all that. But anyhow, we're sort of known as the leaders in technology in the area. We have also one of the best land labs, not one of the best, we probably have, I know we have the best, let me just say the best land lab of any high school in the state. Right behind the vocational building, south of Randolph-Henry and adjacent to the new middle school, we have aquaculture. We have 26 crops that the kids learn how to plant. We have a dairy operation going where we have our solar panels that provide all the pumping of the water and all of the power sources. From the aquaculture, we do research for Virginia State and Virginia Tech. And we pass this along to our extension service, because they're doing research on finding alternatives to the tobacco, trying to help people to get into some other form, on the farm of income, earning income. Our superintendent was a 1996 Superintendent of the Year, first time in the state of Virginia, a rural superintendent, has gotten that award. Our kids tend to do really well on standardized test scores, especially at right now the state test is 4, 8, and 11. You have to test at those grade levels. Now, 4th graders test higher than anybody in the rural areas, and as high as any of the best in the state. And our kids tend to do very, very well on those. So, you know, the business of education the wheels are still rolling. Y'all started them rolling, they're still rolling. There'll be new challenges next year and year after that. Randolph-Henry will still be there. That's going to be a tradition in Charlotte County for a long time to come. I appreciate y'all having me here tonight. Vernon, it's been a pleasure meeting with you and some of the cousins. I hope y'all will ask me back, and what I would like to invite you to do, if y'all would ever care to take a little tour prior to a dinner meeting or something, I'd be happy to give you a tour of the building sometimes in the future. So I thank you for having me. And I'll say good night to you, and any of you, those of you who'd like to go with me to the prom, come on, let's go.
But I feel like I just as soon go with him home and go back to school. I think that on something, and we have a little momentum for you, and I'd like you to enjoy it. It's been a pleasure having you, and I wish that I could claim you as cousin, but maybe next time I see you, I will.
I said I wasn't going to say anything else, but I knew I was going to forget something. I wasn't reading those notes because I left my glasses at home. My grandfather helped build Randolph-Henry High School. He was one of the superintendents on the job. So in addition to all those ties that I've mentioned before, Will Dunn was one of the superintendents on that job at Randolph-Henry High School. Yeah, my grandfather.
I'm sure that all of you thoroughly enjoyed Ruben's presentation, and it's kind of nice to know that the state-of-the-art building that was built there is still the state-of-the-art facility, and certainly for the curriculum that they now offer, it is something that we can certainly be very proud of. And I think, you know, the other thing that I reflect on is the fact that a lot of the students from Randolph-Henry, if you learn something about their careers and about their lives after they leave there, they do quite well. They do quite well. So, Ruben, we get a chance to thank you again. And we're very proud of the programs that are being continued there, and it certainly sounds like it's not only a state-of-the-art facility, but certainly a curriculum. There will be, and incidentally, on those 4-year-olds having had some grandchildren, they haven't learned yet that it can't be done.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Okay.
We have a pass-out that I'd like for everybody to have that has come from members of the class that could not be here. They sent a note to Madeline, and Madeline was good enough to type it up, and it's on a sheet with a little reply. And I thought all of you would like this to take home with you and read it later. It just tells a little greeting or why they couldn't come or some little something that's interesting. If you'll take one and pass it on to, I think we better start on the outside. Take one and pass it on, and then work toward the middle.
While that's going around, the last time that we got together, we had an opportunity to go around and talk about what had happened since our Randolph-Henry days, and we talked a lot about our grandchildren and that type of thing. What we'd like to do tonight is just share, if you would like, something that's happened since the last time that we met that has been something that you've enjoyed and shared with us. So, shall we start? Would you stand?
What? Merle told me she wanted me to keep my mouth shut tonight, so I took that little advice. I will say that it's real good to be here, and looking forward to being back in 4 more years when we have a 60. My Sunday school class asked me, didn't I hate to get old? And I told them, hell no, think of the alternative. I'll be here when that time. We do have one great-grandchild that we didn't have when we were here before. That's number 1 great-grandchild.
Now, last time we left Merle out. We do not want her left out this time. I don't remember being left out. Let's see. I enjoy my computer. I've had one 4 years. I enjoy my great-grandson, and I enjoy my retirement. We are restoring a 200-year-old house, and this is my playtime. So when you come to Emporia, come and visit.
Well, I certainly enjoy class getting together reunion. It's one of the highlights. Taking just about the same with their family, no addition. I retired 12 years, 15 years ago. I believe that's so long, I can't remember. I'm doing at home on the farm and having a good time. Thank you.
I've enjoyed my retirement and my young wife. I have a joke I want to tell you. Forrest Gump died and went to heaven. And St. Peter met him at the pearly gates and said, Forrest, to get in heaven, you got to have a certain amount of knowledge. He said, all right. He said, I got to give you a test. And first question is, how many seconds in a year? Forrest said 12. He said, how you figure that? He said, January 2nd, February 2nd, March. He said, all right. How many days in the week start with T? He said, 4. He said, what are they? He said, today, tomorrow, Tuesday, and Thursday. He said, all right. What's God's first name? He said, Andy. He said, how do you figure that? He said, from that old hymn, Andy walks with me, Andy talks with me. Couldn't see all
We can go to polling. It's polling and sitting on the side.
I'm never at a loss of words, but I enjoyed being here when I came before, and in 1992 I spent about a month in June. I had a brain abscess, but it was not malignant. And I came through it wonderfully well. I didn't think I would ever walk or ever go to church or ever do anything again, but I think I came back full circle. And I have a great day.
Well, I don't have anything to do with this. We are both retired and enjoy fussing and carrying on with each other. It's good to see everybody.
Thank you. I still have the same old husband. As we already told you before. And I have one new grandchild, no great-grandchildren. I've enjoyed my retirement, and I enjoyed having 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. I've been enjoying this meeting here. It's fun. The last one and this one are still more fun. And since the last visit here, I am married, and this is my husband. I was married April 14th, 92.
We can hear you better if you stand up.
I have 2 grandchildren that I enjoy very much. My granddaughter is up at the prom tonight.
Okay.
And I haven't retired yet, but I'm thinking about it this year. And I'm hoping to enjoy it.
You will.
I have retired since the last time, and I enjoy traveling quite a bit.
Well, this is my first one. I had a broken ankle before. I don't think I'll ever be retired. But I wonder if there's anybody here that remembers in Miss Evans' typing class, the day she left us in the room and we climbed over the window and came around in the front door and the principal met us.
I don't remember that.
This is my husband of 54 years, almost in June, Charlie Moore, and he's been retired 17 years.
Did you tell this thing?
No, I didn't tell you his name.
We have 2 grandchildren, and unfortunately, they live in Connecticut. We still don't see them very often. Paul is retired he's an architect, followed 8 years, and I'm so glad to get rid of them. I don't know.
About 50 years ago, I'm going back. I met this gal on a blind date right here in this facility before they modernized it. She was at Longwood and I was at Tech, and I met on a blind date here. She had given up on me and I'd given up on her, but we accidentally run into each other. And this is a true story. 50 years ago, I've been married to her now this coming year, 49 years. It's been the best 49 years I've ever had. But right now, since our last meeting, she and I and another couple went out to Rancho Santa Fe, north of San Diego, for house sitting. I believe it was about 4 years ago when it burned, or 5 years ago. He had invited us out to visit him, so we went by and visited with him. And his highlight of our trip out there probably was him taking us out to dinner there. And we had an enjoyable time with you guys. Now, recently, I could tell you, I could stand here for probably an hour and tell you what's happened in the last 5 years, but I won't do it. One thing I am going to tell you, I love to play golf like some of the other guys in here. I was 73, September the 19th last year. In October, I shot my age playing golf. I think that's that was pretty good. Melvin, I didn't know you learned that alive. Some of them said I was 95, but I was only 73. The other highlights of our life has been our grandchildren. We have one in Florida, and we go down there and spend, this past winter, we spent 3.5 months in Florida, mooching off of them and a few other people. And we got 2 granddaughters in Greensboro, North Carolina, that we have a pleasant time going down and visiting with them. You know, this thing has gotten reversed now. They don't come see us, but every once in a while, we go see them quite often. So, because those kids are growing up in a computer age and everything else, and they can't get away after they get 7 or 8 years. We go see them. Enjoyed being here, and I hope we will be. When does that stand? 4 years from now?
2001.
2001, we'll get together again somewhere. Right. Right.
Well, I didn't finish with the class.
Well, you were one of the class. You were one of the class.
Yes.
But I have 4 grown children. Well, my oldest son's been teaching school for 24 years in Sparkling County, Norwood County. And his wife is the same number of years. My oldest daughter's been 22 years at Stafford High School. Different school. Stafford right now. And 10 grandchildren. When I left home a week ago, they all helped them out. I was just telling
I attended the 50th reunion, but I didn't get to the 52nd. And with this one, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've got a daughter and a son-in-law, both of them live in Raleigh, North Carolina. They're doing well. And I'm still working with law enforcement.
I have thoroughly enjoyed the night. I have 2 children, one of them's with me tonight, and 4 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. And my husband was killed in World War II, and the youngest one was 3 weeks old when he left me in France. And I enjoyed meeting everybody again tonight.
I've enjoyed retirement and 4 children, 4 grandchildren. Time just keeps passing on, and there's nothing much ever happens differently.
And I'm enjoying retirement, even though I get called back to the county office building to work real often. And the nice thing is, I say you can't fire me because I'm already retired. I'm trying to learn to use a mouse with a computer. I've had a computer to begin with, but it was the clicking type, and now it's the mouse. And I never did like mice, so.
So next, we have 4 daughters, 6 granddaughters, and 1 grandson, and he is a charm. And we have been fortunate to be in church with Marie and Oscar for the last few years, and they've been a real blessing to our life.
Amen.
And I want to tell you the joke she told at the 25th reunion. She introduced herself and her husband and said they'd rather fight than switch. Okay, Francis.
Well, I've enjoyed being here tonight with everybody again, too. And Reed and I will be married 56 years in July. We don't have any children, but we have more children than anybody else here. But one of the main things I want to say is my little great niece that was born in Lynchburg General Hospital, and her heart wasn't developed. And 4 years ago, talking about 4-year-olds, and she's on a computer now. And they took her out on a plane to Louisville, Kentucky, and she had open heart surgery and stayed out there a week alone. Her daddy and mother flew at one time. And she's my little namesake. She's Julie Francis Bailey. And I love them so much.
Amen.
Well, I'm still working after all these years. I like it a lot. I have 6 granddaughters, 1 grandson. Thank goodness he was born to my son and have somebody to carry the name on. I've had a great time. Oh, I have 2 great-grandsons. One I've never seen, but I'll see him this summer. I'm flying to Colorado to see him. And the other one was baptized last Sunday. They're 3 months old. And I've had a good time, enjoyed seeing all of you. And I hope to be back in 2001.
2001.
I plan to.
You'll make it.
I plan to. Absolutely.
We skipped you. Did you?
That wasn't real fun.
Oh.
She's my guest. I was in here behind you all.
That's right.
She's my partner.
I'm Mary Spain, and this is still my first husband. And I call him my sweet baby. Like, who is it on Cheers? Rebecca on Cheers, her old boyfriend, she calls him her sweet baby. And we've had we had a buffet tonight, but there was a banquet, and all the fine linens were out, and all the fine china, and the stemware and the silver, and a young man, and he found himself sitting right beside Ann Landers. So he said, "Are you the same Ann Landers that writes the column in the paper?" She said, "Yes, yes." He said, "Are you the same Ann Landers that teaches people how to walk and how to sit and how to talk and how to eat?" She said, "Yes, yes." He said, "Well, Miss Ann Landers, you are eating my salad." You know, I never remembered many jokes. I don't remember my mother and dad ever telling jokes. We came along during the Depression, and I guess maybe they thought nothing was funny. And I can see that too. But some friends came over one day, and I was 5 years old, and I can tell you the first joke I ever heard. And this man said to my dad, he said, "Sammy, can I tell you a joke?" And I thought, wonder what a joke is. So 5 years old, I hung around to listen. And this is what he said. He said, a fella had a girlfriend, and he thought she was so great and so sweet, he could just eat her. And after they were married about a year, he wished he had. Oscar and I were taking a class at the University of Richmond, and a professor the professor teaching the class, said, when you tell a joke, don't explain it. Have you ever had somebody to tell a joke, and then the guy beside you explains it, and somebody is way out on left field? Either you or that guy explaining the joke, which you didn't ask for. But he says, I'm going to give you an illustration. And he was speaking that night on strong will, strong mind, and determination. And he said, a farmer had his milk cans out for the dairy truck to pick up. And two little frogs were just jumping around. And the farmer put the lid on the can, and there the two frogs found themselves on the inside of the can. So the one little frog says, we will surely die. And he did. He threw up both front arms and just went down, and he died. And the other little frog says, well, I'm not giving up this quickly and this easily. So he just jumped up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So when the truck got to the dairy and they were ready to process, there was, sure enough, one little dead frog and another little frog sitting up on a cake of butter. I was director of Bible school at that time, and one of my teachers came up and said, the kids are going crazy, they can't go outdoors and play. Says, will you come down and tell them something funny or something cute? And so they'll have something to be doing. So I thought, good, that's what I'll do. I'll tell the thing the professor told the night before, and he said not to explain it, so I won't. Well, I forgot that city kids, all they know is that the brown cow gives the chocolate milk, and the white cow gives the white milk, and the belly goat, oh no, not belly goats, nanny goats. The nanny goats give the buttermilk. So I went in and I told the story. And when I got to the part about the frog sitting up on a cake of butter, and if there's anything I can't stand is a smart-mouthed kid. This kid said, you didn't tell us it was a cake of butter in that can. And the other kid said, yes, who put the butter in the can? And another kid spoke up and said, the farmer put the butter in the can, you stupid idiot. So, I'll tell you about our little granddaughter. She had waited all year to go to Disney World. And she had just counted on it so big. She went to Disney World, and she came back. She had the Mickey Mouse ears and the Minnie Mouse earrings, and she had the Minnie Mouse watch. She had the whole 9 yards. So she came to our house, and she lost one of the earrings. So she said, oh, please, Grandma me, if you find my earring, please call me and tell me, and I will call you if I find it. Well, 3 or 4 days went by, and I didn't hear from Katie. So I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter, a business envelope, to Minnie Mouse, Orlando, Florida, Disney World. So, wasn't long, I got a letter back. Well, let me see, I put in there, Dear Minnie, if you've ever done anything in your lifetime worthwhile, please send Katie an earring of the Minnie Mouse. Well, I got just 2 or 3 days, a week later, I got a letter and a package, and it said, you didn't say if they were clip-ons or pierced ears, so we just sent both. So, oh, I was so tickled, I called my daughter Masha, that some of you people know, and I said, Masha, guess what? Wasn't that great, public relations, to do a thing like that? The whole time I'm talking, she's saying, Mom, Mom, Mom. She said, Katie found the earring. So I was all that to do. And then I'm saying, well, I still think it was nice of Disney World to do that. She said, Mom, Mom, I didn't even buy it at Disney World. I bought it from the Avon woman. We were in the train station one time going to a convention, And we were in Union Station, I believe Union Station. And a woman came up to me and she said, would you hold my baby while I go to the restroom? And I thought, great, I'd love to do that. So I was holding the baby, and she came on back and got the baby and left. And Oscar said, what would you have done if she'd have never come back? I said, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But I didn't want him to get the best of me. So I said, I'd have just walked up to another lady, and I would have said, kind lady, would you hold the baby while I go to the restroom, and I'd have headed for Richmond. We were in Branson a few years ago, and you know, the crowds are so big, and the traffic is so big. And so we were at a place for breakfast, and all these entertainers on the stage, and one song this woman was singing, and she came down off the stage, and she sat down on Oscar's knees. And at that time, he could hardly walk. He groaned and moaned. He couldn't believe, you couldn't even hardly live with him. He was so bad off. And that woman sat down on his knees and singing to him and putting her hands all over him and loving him. And she had the mic singing to him. I said, hey, hey, hey. He's got bad knees. I didn't know my voice was going all over the whole. And I said, he can hardly walk, and he gripes all the time. And she kept on singing, so I said, look, just look at him. He's gotten well already. That's a quicker healing than Oral Roberts ever did. Okay, I'm gonna sit down before Ruby pulls the rug from under me. But I'm going to tell you, I was teaching Sunday school, and I had all ladies. And I was teaching the part in the Bible, Preacher John, about in heaven, there'd be no marriages, no giving in marriage. You wouldn't know each other as husband and wife. And let me see, what else? Oh, I said no sex and no something. And just no nothing. No husbands. Supposed to be happy ladies, so it was no husbands. So I said, and it was a young lady in there had just gotten married not too long. Boy, she stopped me in a hurry. She said, if there's no sex in heaven, I'm not sure I want to go. Well, I was real glad she didn't turn down heaven, because she divorced him real soon. And last summer, Oscar and I were at an anniversary party, and a man came up and spoke to us. So I said to Oscar, I said, you know what? That man is the husband. So that girl woman I was teaching in Sunday school that wasn't interested in heaven, and so if there was no husbands and no sex, I said that was her husband. So I thought for a while, and I said, you know what, honey, if there's no husbands and no sex in heaven, I still want your mansion to be next door to my mansion. He said, no way. I don't want any part of living next door to you. You'll have a list this long every day of me to do. I said, you think my mansion's going to be run down? I said, my mansion's not going to be run down. So if you ever see Oscar going down the street with a ladder on his back and belt with saws and hammers, you'll know he's going over to Marie's next door. Okay, how can you? It's your class. It's your class.
What class? I'm in.
Go ahead.
I'm not, it's his class.
Okay, well, I'll take a turn, and before I do, I want to tell you that I have talked to Grover, and he doesn't like all of our plan, but he's willing to listen to a part of it. In the year 2001, we will have had our 60th year. And he says, while he can't do it exactly like I suggested, that is, we come in and eat, choose food from the menu, because there'd be too many of us. And I said, well, there are only 44 of us this time. By that time, there may be less number, but he still thinks it would be too big. If it's only 20, whatever is the number, it's too big to come in on him. Therefore, here's what he's willing to do. Second Saturday of June, I've got to stop saying 19. The year 2001, we'll meet here. All that can, all that are interested, but there's one responsibility on the part of each of us. We have to let somebody know that will contact him. And it looks to me like it can't be Madeline. I have already heard by the grapevine that Madeline has done her share. Therefore, we may pick on Frances, by mail, Frances, you can sit and do that, and let her know who will call Grover. Would you be willing?
How old is he?
Grover? Would you be willing if we all sent word to you and tell you, yes, we will come, the year 2001, Saturday, second Saturday, and that's not Father's Day, we checked that out. It's the third Saturday that's Father's Day. Second Saturday in June, the year 2001, here in this building. Yes, Stan?
I don't know that would affect any of us as having children graduating, but we could have grandchildren, and this is right.
Might be a problem?
Yeah, this might be a problem, and I know this is a problem with this date we have now, that some people have children that are finishing high school or finishing college, grandchildren, I'm talking about.
We talked about some other possibilities, but we really didn't talk about graduations. And grandchildren's graduations are a conflict. We'd have a meeting. Well, I'm open to suggestions, if I have one. And the third is out because it's Father's Day. How about May? That is a little hard, although it might work. Now, when we talked to Grover before, Madeline, help me. What was the problem? Anderson said in.
That was earlier, a week earlier than this. This week wasn't a problem, next week wasn't a problem. But it was
Earlier.
Second week was empty.
All right, somebody tell me, what Saturday is this, the third?
This is the third.
All right. Do you like the idea of sticking with the third?
The second Saturday in June is normally all the schools out of.
Well, Stan says it might be that there are some schools not graduated or graduating.
Like snow days made up, having to be made up.
So if we stick with May, you want to offer some suggestion there? The third Saturday in May. I like that, all right. I have no objection to that. All right, I'll speak to him and make sure that he knows not June, but May. We'll go with the May. I can hear little rumblings of talking. You better say it out loud so we all know it. Is it something we all ought to hear? You know, if it's a suggestion, Donald? Anybody over there?
Most of the colleges are graduating in this way.
Most of them had last weekend.
The problem with the fourth is Memorial Day. The third?
Makes sense.
The third Saturday in May. Third Saturday in May. I see these girls are writing, that's wonderful. 2001. And that will be 60.
Oh, yeah?
He said, oh, yes.
For the same date, 2001, how many envision that date being a go?
If we live it, yes.
Listen, I'm planning long living. Okay, the other thing that is a possibility, if you come up with a different idea, why not write? Yeah, why not drop a note and give some suggestions between there and then we can work on something. Another thought that went through my mind, and this is, you know, Reuben and Larry tonight mentioned, you know, a tour of the school.
Yeah.
And I know when Clara's class had their reunion, they had it at the high school.
We
And I don't
did
know if
the
that,
25th.
I don't know if that.
The 25th we did it.
And then, well, the 25th I missed. Yeah. Now, was that catered?
What was that garden club? Keysville Garden Club.
You know, I think that is something you should think about. And I think it would be kind of nice if we can, if the mechanics are such that we could be there at the school and have a tour before we get together. And I think, you know, that would have been. So again, if you have any ideas, you can let.
All right, here is the problem. All of you might as well just know. Madeline does the work. And she's not even a member of the class. And she works at this very diligently. And I think we ought to figure out a way to do it without working her to the core. If Francis is willing to accept the notes stating, yes, we'll come, without Madeline having to put in the mail a little, whatever we call it, intention of if you'll come or not. That's it right there in a nutshell. If Francis is willing to do it, if we can let her know that we would like to come and how many, and then worry about the $20 when we get here. Save you having to worry about that. Are you willing, Francis?
Really, I just can't say I can do that.
You what?
I just can't say that I can do that.
But you're willing to try?
I'm willing to try, but I'm still around.
Well, that's fair enough. Because maybe Mamie Pugh, who could not be here tonight, would be willing to help you.
She would be willing.
She's not far away.
Josephine's not far away.
Okay. Yeah, now the only thing I want to share with you that's big for us since we were together last is this young man has a little arthritic problem and we needed to get him to a warmer climate in the winter. So we went out to Phoenix, Arizona to visit, as we had done before. Our son lives there. And so we got the idea that we would rent a spot. And it's not feasible, so don't go expecting to rent in the Phoenix area. We ended up buying a place. And all of our friends said, oh, would you give up your mountain home? And I said, no. Why not have the best of both worlds? So what we're doing is living in the winter in the warm climate, and in the, you know, people have done that all the time. So if any of you come to the Phoenix area, look us up. We're in Chandler, and Chandler's like a little park, little subdivision right outside of Phoenix, and we have a little room called the Timeshare. If you want to come to see us, we'll be glad to entertain you in Phoenix, Arizona.
Catherine Goods,
I got an invitation. Okay, I think I've said all I want to do until we get ready to.
Already. Melvin kind of stole my show because I was going to mention to you one of the things that's really happened since the last time that we thoroughly enjoyed was I invited any of you who, you know, once you retire, a lot of people do a lot of traveling. If you ever come to the West Coast, I invited any of you who come to visit us and spend the night. Melvin and Lorena didn't spend the night, but we thoroughly enjoyed having them come, and we did have a chance to visit and also to go to one of our favorite restaurants and dine together. One of the highlights that happened to Clara and I since we got together the last time, both of us went to and got training in working suicidal hotline. And we completed our training, and since we were here the last time, for 2 years now, we have been working every other week at Suicide Hotline. And I want to tell you something, folks. For those who hadn't had religion before, boy, this really gets to you. And, there's a lot of people, as a matter of fact, I don't think it was very many in our class who have been able to stick it out. And Claire and I, we've hung in there, and this has been an extreme rewarding experience, and I think that we're going to hang in there for many, many years to come, hopefully. But that's one of the highlights.
We would like to recognize a few people. I'd like to recognize a few people.
Okay.
And I'd like to start with Madeline, the one I've already said has worked so hard. I'm going to get for her.
Well, I've enjoyed doing everything.
And you can share it with Billy.
Thank you so much.
What's Bill doing so quiet?
And this is for our president.
Oh, thank you.
And you may share this one there.
Oh, do I have to?
No. And this is for Dorothy.
I cannot
And you
accept
can
that
share that.
because I haven't done a single
Yes, you
thing.
have. And I don't really know how to get to Mamie. Madeline, can you help me?
Yes. I'll be
You
glad.
can handle that? Okay. This is for Mamie.
Okay. All right.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you get one?
No, I'm not supposed to have one.
I think we present you with mine because I haven't done a single thing this year.
Yes, you have.
Let me present it to you. You are the best of them.
John, would you lead us in the closing?
Be happy to. If everyone's willing to stand up, if I get up. I want you to join hands around all of you. Excuse me, let me get out that chair.
We have several guests tonight that we referred to, speaker did, and we're happy to have both Mr. Dunn, Mr. Ray Dunn and Mr. Reuben Dunn, and we already referred to the daughter of one of our students. And was there another guest in the group? Yes, seems to me like we had one other. Dale?
Blair Parsons.
Blair, okay.
Elizabeth's sister.
Mhm. Good. And wasn't there one other though?
My daughter,
Your
Dale.
daughter, yes, Dale. And Dale was sitting on the end, and Dale, it's nice to have you. Wasn't there another daughter though?
Yeah,
Josephine's daughter, right, I thought so. You're so young and so vivacious, we get you all mixed up and want to count you as one of us. Because we're still young and vivacious. Young at heart, all right, honey.
Bow your heads, if you will, please. Our Father, the gains in this world are many. Some are bright, some are not so bright, but there brightly shines the one who came into the world that we might know how to be our very best. Father, we thank you for these who cherish their school, cherish all about it if they learn the bright spot in their lives. And they've learned to adjust the world. So Father, we ask that you give us more of your Spirit, that the one who came and gave so much wants to teach us again and again about the most beautiful of all situations, and that is to be full of the Spirit of the living God. We thank you for this night. We thank you for everyone that is here. We ask you that you would send a blessing to their lives, whatever is the greatest need. And we give you the praise, honor, and glory in the name of Jesus and for his sake. Amen.
Enjoy.